Oh, Matt Justice left. Okay, yeah, calm me down. I am ready now.
Recording started.
Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. My name is Eric Nelson, and with me, my normal guest, Matt Longeth. Matt, how you doing today?
Eric, I am well. Looking forward to today's guest. And I've also brought a session catalog as we're encroaching here on VMworld. It seems like we're getting closer and closer every week. But before we get to all of that, how are you, sir? And what's the color of the bay?
The color of the bay today is turquoise green with a little bit of a shine from the a chunk of ice that's flying by us right now with the meteor. I forget the name of it. Neowise. So was out at the bay yesterday evening and got to see Neowise, right? Was able to see it with binoculars. So I was out at the bay sitting at the ocean, could see a good clear view. It has been warm and nice here in California, very sunny, calm, not too windy. So pretty good out there. And so we're enjoying the nice weather. On the show today, we're going to be talking to Martjin Smit. He is a senior technical marketing manager. He also helps, big community guy, helps us with the vExpert application, basically wrote the entire vExpert application. If you've ever been to vexpert.vmware.com and applied to be a vExpert, Martjin is the guy that helps run that project, started it, built it, and now runs it with the community. So Martjin's on the show today. We'll get to Martjin shortly. He's got a new book out, vRealize Network Insight Cookbook. So we're here to talk to Martjin about his book and all the things that he does. But before we get to that, we do have some news and announcements. So first big announcement, I'll let Corey do the first big announcement. I know things are been heating up in the vExpert space. So Corey, how's it going?
Doing well, Eric. Yeah, so vExperts, we announced the second half awards, which was fantastic. We announced it on Friday, and wow, we broke 2,000 vExperts, which is really impressive, right? And I've kind of noticed this as our business grows and as our customers grow, right? So does the awareness outside, which creates more people who want to talk about VMware, right? Which in turn creates more vExperts. So we're definitely seeing an increase in participation in the community, which is great.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is always an investment. I know we talk about vExperts all the time, but really we're talking about community evangelism and community influencers and just sharing and being part of the community. So, and the online community and people creating their own communities, right? I'm talking to a guy this Friday who wants to do stuff on Discord, right? And that's fantastic. We get more people doing more things, creating and expanding the community ecosystem. Geez, we got to love that. And so, yeah, crossing 2,000, I still have the list of the vExperts that we originally selected, the first 22 of them that me and John Troyer sat down to build the program, and we identified 22 influencers that we could work with. And so now that's crossing 2,000. That's a big step, and I look at Microsoft, and there's only a handful of other tech companies that have as big influencer programs as we do. In fact, the only one I can think of is Microsoft. So congrats to you, Corey, and thanks to Martjin from the vExpert perspective, the app. We would have never been able to scale up this big without having the expert app out there. And thanks to the vExpert pros, Matt, you're one of those. Without you guys doing all the voting and management of the program, we wouldn't have that as well. So I think that I can just say thanks to everybody, not because this is the second half awards and we awarded another a couple hundred people that got through the process, but just thanks to everybody that took it across the 2,000 mark. That has been one that we've been watching for a long time. One day we'll make it. And here we are. It's kind of like hitting immortal status on my favorite game. Once you become immortal, you're like, okay, what next? I don't know. Somebody's gonna have to tell me what next, but I'm excited about that. Matt, what do you think about that?
I think that we've seen a higher level of diligence from the vExpert pros. I think that their level of feedback and diligence and reviewing each and every one of those applications just has taken it to another level. It's also brought about a higher level of interaction with the community. So again, if you didn't happen to make it this round, or just interested in the program in general, please reach out to one of those vExpert pros in your region, or just any one of them in general, and let's go through the process and figure out what we can do to welcome you to everything that of all the benefits that are the vExpert program.
Yeah, I think got some a little bit of stack noise there, responding on chat. I think, I think it's great. Corey, where are we gonna go? I think we're gonna sit here for a while, right? We're always looking for new vExperts. I know there's fun stuff you're doing with the app with Martjin, right? I'm sure you have lots of things that you guys are cooking up for the next half of year, and for 2021, when we'll all have our vaccines and we'll be able to go hang out with one another. I assume you guys have some stuff in the works that you're going to continue to work on.
Yep, absolutely. So we've got some modifications happening with the vExpert app. So Martjin is kind of putting that together for us. He's kind of putting the meeting together. I have marked down the new features we want to introduce into the app, as well as a couple small bugs. But beyond that, we're opening another sub-program next week, which is going to be another vExpert sub-program with the second half award winners, as well as the rest of the experts will be able to apply for. So yeah, a lot of interesting things happening.
So we don't get a sneak peek on what the new sub-program is going to be?
Well, I already knew you were going to ask that question. So yeah, application modernization.
App modernization. Nice. I got to say that the expansion markets that we're looking at, which is, app modernization, Kubernetes, cloud native, whatever you want to call that, that's an expansion model for all of us in ecosystems. So I think it's cool that we're doing that and that we get into that space. This is relevant for all of us because it keeps us, our certifications and everything we've done and invested in VMware for the last 10 years, it still remains relevant. And that for me is our responsibility as VMware employees, is to keep us relevant so that all the work we've done, stays relevant for our career for the next 10 years or next 20 years. So thanks for that, Corey. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Other news, VMworld. Just take a moment to talk about VMworld. So one, there has been this thread going on around, is VMworld community stuff free or not free? What is free? What is the $2.99 pass? So thought I would take a moment and just list out, and we have been doing some social this week around what is free versus what is not free. So mostly VMworld is free. It's free this year, right? Pretty much wholesale free. There is a $2.99 paid package, and what the paid package is for special one-on-one environments where you have 25, 30 people to one. The number one thing that's part of the paid process is hands-on lab workshops. I'm sure all of you guys have done hands-on lab workshops where you get an instructor, takes you through the hands-on labs. So the paid program is really about the hands-on lab environment. There are a few other things they're doing as part of the paid program, but the hands-on lab is by far and away the one thing that people are going to sign up and paid for, because if you want that 20-person, 30-person workshop, they're going to require you to pay $300, mostly just to keep everybody out. How do you make it a valuable resource? Those seats are going to be valuable. We, on the other hand, are running all our community stuff free, with the exception, if you remember, if you've ever been to VMworld, we run the Raspberry Pi labs, right? We give away sensors. We do all the giveaways with these sensors. This year, I've defined this concept called birds of a feather, which is basically the Raspberry Pi sessions. And some other sessions we'll do, which we're looking at those as, okay, we can spend up to $50 to send you something. So in this case, the Raspberry Pi lab is going to be on about ESXi and ARM running on a Raspberry Pi 4. So if you pay the $300 for that program and get a seat, you will actually get a Raspberry Pi mailed to you, right? So those are specialty lab sessions that we're going to be running as part of the VMworld event. the $2.99 paid packages for those type of activities, so that we have some budget that scales out and you can join one of these sessions. There aren't that many. There's going to be like 10 or 15 sessions that I'm going to run. There are a bunch of labs that are going to be run. So that's what it is. The community stuff is all going to be free. And things that are going to be free, just thought I would run through them. vBrownBag is going to be streaming their sessions, which is what we always put in the community booth. So Alistair's done a call for sessions. He's going to be live streaming those sessions. I think he's doing that on the Monday, right? So we're trying to make the whole event 5 days long, Monday through Friday. So Alistair's going to be doing the live stream sessions. I think he has 20 to 40 sessions, depending, that are going to be live streaming on Monday. We're helping sponsor that, and we will be involved with that, so that vBrownBag will be alive and well, running their free sessions like we always do in the community booth. At the same time, there's VMworld sessions. There's going to be 100 plus live sessions that will have, well, they're streaming sessions that will have live Q&A. So you can come in, watch the live streaming sessions. There's going to be 7 tracks for those live sessions. So you can come in and choose your track, and then it will live stream on your second or third monitor all day long. And then you can do question and answering. That is also all free. So you can engage with people, ask questions, watch the sessions free. They are also doing a mobile app that will have instant messenger. So you can instant message any conference attendee that is signed up for free. So again, you can talk to people, say hello through the mobile app. So they will have a mobile app that will be free. Next thing we're doing is live streaming 32 plus VMware code sessions. So if you've ever been in VMworld, we have the VMware code booth. We do those community sessions. Those community sessions will also be live streamed. So far, I think we have 32 plus sessions. We will have live Slack chat with those sessions, and all of that is free. So we also have free sessions. That's happening Thursday and Friday. You can go save the date for the Thursday, Friday. We're calling that event, just like we have the code booth, we're calling, I think, that Code Con for Code Connect. It will be the second and the two. We're also then doing a hackathon that will be 24/7 live environment that you can come join and meet people, say hello, hang out. That is also free. So when we talk about free, all the community stuff is free, available there, live streams, chats, engagements, much the same way we do. And then we do have the $2.99 pass, which are for these very private HOLs that will have instructor-led training. We also have some code labs and some other kind of community lab, birds of a feathers, which we will very specialize, limited seating, probably only 30 seats for those guys. Those are very specialty items for the $2.99 pass, but then you get value from that we're going to be running. But by and large, all the other stuff, vBrownBag, VMware Code, Power Sessions, Slack chats, instant messaging, all that's part of the community. That's all free. So we wanted to get that message out there. We will be doing some social media. If you see it, retweet it. Let everybody know that at VMworld, we will be doing live environments and engagement, and that's all free for community attendees. So community is free at VMworld. There's a little bit of confusion because the VMworld people announced the $2.99 pass and listed a couple of the birds of a feather sessions that we've been designing, but those are not the bulk of what we're doing with vBrownBag and VMware Code in the community booth as a whole. So there you go. Anything you want to add, Martin, Matt, or Corey, to that?
So, Eric, with the hackathon, obviously a really popular event, do you see that as an individual signing up for it, or are we still going to go the teams as we were doing in person, where you would have to sign up a team and then the teams would compete? So if it is going to be a teams format, or do we have registration available? How's all that going to work? Do you have the details that we could share?
I do not have details yet. I have details, but there's no place to sign up yet. We work with the VMware Code coaches. There are 25 code coaches, just like the vExpert pros. We're working with the code coaches, and they recommended the team environment. So we are going to do the team environment, and we are going to do a call for team captains. That will probably go out in the next week or so. We just did call for papers. They will do a call for team captains. The team captains will get a location on GitHub. So the VMware Code GitHub repository will be where we're going to be running most of the events. We're partnering with GitHub. So we will do a call for team captains shortly. And if you have an idea, you can submit that idea on GitHub, and then people can join your team. Once you've joined your team, you organize your team, and then we will be running the hackathon in Zoom, where we will have a main hall, and then we will have sub halls for the actual teams where they can come in and code, check things in and out of GitHub, and do their project. And then the hackathon will basically have several sessions during the last 2 days, Thursday and Friday, when we're running the CodeCon, where we will expose the projects as well as the judges, as well as who are the winners at the end.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think I'll add to the overall, let's just say I've heard from a couple of storage vendors that are out there that for vExperts, that they may have traditionally in the past have given out a pretty nice gift for vExperts at VMworld, that they're going to continue to do that this year. So I would say for both existing vExperts and newly minted vExperts here from this last round that we had just discussed, be out on the lookout on socials and the Slack channel as well. I know the one I was lucky enough to see a little bit of a sneak preview for it, and it's quite the gift. So be on the lookout for on socials and on the Slack channel for a special vExpert gift this year.
Excellent. And I know that me and Corey are working to look at what are we going to do for a gift. It's interesting to see how everybody's going to figure out how to ship it to everybody, because the gifts are one thing. The shipping, especially when you go to scale, where you have to send out 1,000 things, it gets kind of worky, right? You have to do a lot of work. 1,000 envelopes. We're trying to figure that out. Maybe try to figure out how to do gift cards. Corey thinks that we can do kind of cool gift cards where you can buy the gift cards and then just mail them through email, right? You can get a token that's a gift card and then mail it through email. But physical stuff, I'm a big fan of physical stuff, so I don't know, but I don't know how I'm going to do that. Graham mentions on chat, yeah, you can send all 1,000 pies to me. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to send 1,000 of anything to anybody. So,
but there's a will, there's a way. I'm sure we'll figure something out. And I just ask the community as a whole just to keep in mind that this is something free. Right. So that there's a tremendous amount of effort and resources and planning that go out there into all of this. And ultimately, it's a gift.
It's also a thank you, right? So yeah,
sure.
It is you to some degree, people have earned something cool. So yeah, we're gonna work on it. We're gonna figure it out. I'm just hoping they get the vaccine like done early, like September, then we can just all have VMworld. That's it. Yeah, that's my strategy. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Only kidding. All right, let's move on. A lot of fun there. Excited about it. And hey, you guys have to forgive us. This is the first time we've done something like this where it's been live streaming, constant streams. I think the whole VMworld team and ourselves are learning about it and figuring it out and figuring out how to do it. And we want it to be great. So, don't be surprised if things shift a little bit as we figure out how to do things, right? And I think they've come in, the VMworld team has come in with here's what we know we can do to set up a base. And then we're trying to layer things on as we learn how to do them, right? So yeah, wouldn't be surprised. And then I wouldn't be surprised if one or two things crash and burn as we do them. There's no guarantee that this stuff is all going to work perfectly. As me and Julia Klaus say, hey, it's live. We don't know what live actually means until you get it and do live. And then you find out that your license expired right in the middle of the live sessions, and you have to shut down and start it back up and get a license key. So live is live. Should be fun. Should be fun. I'm
a learning experience from everyone, but I'm sure that the amount of efforts being put in, it's going to be new and exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right, with that, we'll get to Martjin. I like to say Martine, I guess. Martjin Smit. How's it going? Welcome to the show. You're always a great guy to have on. Why don't you give us the 2 minute elevator pitch? I know you're from the Netherlands. Where do you live? Where do you work? I know you work at VMware. How long have you worked here? And what do you work on?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Always good to be here. I think the last time I was on, we were talking about the vExpert program, which is also pretty close to my heart, obviously, as you already mentioned. Yeah, so my name is Martjin Smit. I live in the Netherlands. I also work in the Netherlands, but I work with most of the US team within the CMBU of the technical marketing team. So I currently look after vRealize Network Insight, which is also the topic of the book that you dragged me on to talk about. So I do technical marketing for that, maintain labs, create content, help customers out with how to use it, all of that cool stuff. And I have a lot of cool side projects. So the vExpert Pro portal, I've got PowerVRI, which is also inside that book, which is a PowerShell module which you can use to automate with VRI. I love automation, do a lot of scripting, programming, but also IoT stuff. I even got an automated barbecue temperature measurement that warns me whenever my brisket is done, or if I need to flip it over. So yeah, that's 2 minute elevator pitch. Does that fit?
Yeah, so. That's nice. So VMware, how long have you been at VMware?
For 4 years. Yeah, 4 years.
Nice.
So in the technical marketing role for about a year now, and before that, I was a solution architect within the NSBU for NSX, also network insights, but also app defense and ACX and all of the cool networking products.
Now you're busy with your side projects. Don't you feel like you need those side projects? Because coming over to marketing, you're just going to get, further and further away from the heavy tech. So it's good to keep your fingers and stuff, isn't it?
Well, sort of. I mean, marketing is a lot of content generating and talking about stuff, but technical marketing is almost like 60-40 and 60% inside the deep bowels of the product itself. So me and Matt just run an entire lab that's equivalent to a corporate networking environment. So we have our hands full with that as well. Building topologies, applications, monitoring them, demo stories, all of the things that you need in order to demo VRI in this case. So I'm pretty tech handy still, nice. Luckily.
Great. All right, well, let's get into your book. First question, and I'll let Matt jump in here too as well. But I'll start with, so why a book? Why did you write a book? And take us through the process of becoming a book. I've tried to write several books, and I know some of the other people in the community have written books along the way. Give us a little bit of insight on why a book and how did that process play out?
So the why was the question that I asked myself a lot during the writing period, because it kept getting longer and bigger and bigger. But basically what it was all about is that our VMware's product documentation is pretty good, right? I mean, you can find things, how to configure something and then how to use a specific feature and all that. That's all there. But when it comes to networking management and troubleshooting that VRI tries to attack, that's like a very big story. That's a very big end-to-end process that someone has to go through. And that picture was basically missing in my mind. So when you go to the documentation, you can find out what that button does, but not why do you need to press that button and how do you get to that button, etc. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I decided to take it on and dive in and write it.
And Martin, start to finish. So when did when did you start to put pen to paper, as they say, from the time that you first started to really get the initial idea to the time that you went live and a book could be ordered? How long of a time frame was it? That's
about 2 years. So I was playing around with the idea for about 6 months, trying to get some feedback from the Network Insight product team, trying to get some support here and there. see if they will even let me into their minds and pick them apart and put all of those tips and tricks into that book. So that was 6 months, a little bit of planning, and then about a year writing. About a year and a half writing, and then well, a couple of months to get the publisher going and get some content around it to actually launch it out there. But it's a long time.
And with that, how did you? So I'm assuming that there's going to be a couple of versions of that have been released during that process. So how do you decide from when your change stop is, or your own change control of, I'm writing about this feature set and potentially a new feature set has been released? How do you, one, know when to stop? And if there is an improvement, is there a way to get out revisions, or how have you handled that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I struggle with that, quite honestly, because Network Insight is on a quarterly release cycle, meaning that there's a new version every 3 months, and they release a lot of stuff. So every single release has like a major big new thing that you could possibly also add into it, right? So I was done with the rest, and then they come up, and oh, I can start all over again. Oh. So the thing that I really wanted to make sure that is that if you take it and read it as a networking and security engineer / admin, I wanted it to be something that they could use to get better at their jobs with. So not just focus on the product and try to sell more of the product or something. I wanted to make sure that they could use it to basically just to get a better life and stop troubleshooting and stop wasting so much time to find certain problems inside these networks. So that was my guiding line. So I set an index on it, like which topic should I need to touch on in order to get to that point. And about 6 months ago, I went into the review cycle with all of the engineering team also. Big shout out to them. And basically, we were making the conclusion that it's there. I mean, if you take this book and you go from zero to finish, they would be able to use it. You would be able to use it to basically do your job more effectively if you're in the works, if you're in the on the ground troubleshooting and managing these networks. So that was my my guiding line. But honestly, it's never going to be finished because the product is never going to be finished, right? So I made a conscious decision to focus on a digital version. So I went over to a couple of publishers, see if there's like an sort of an agile way of publishing books. And I found LeanPub in that process, and it's kind of funny because I use Git a lot, and I use coding and Markdown a lot in my side projects. And LeanPub actually allows you to write your book in Markdown, and then they transfer that and convert that into PDFs, ebooks, EPUBs, and all kinds of digital formats. So I'm using that, meaning that I can iterate on it using Git. So if I've got a new chapter, I just commit that to my Git repository, and then it gets automatically published into LeanPub. So that's a way of making sure that I can update it really quickly. I mean, I do have some physical copies of it. There's a copy on Amazon. If you really want to have a physical one, like this one.
Nice.
And of course, I want to have one myself just to keep it close to me. But I'm focusing really on that digital version because it's an agile book, as I like to call it.
It's
So
like
modern change control for what was traditional print press. That's pretty incredible.
yeah, it's like a hybrid approach, right? Where for the old school guys who still want a book, right? My wife hates me because I still pick up books now and then. I like them. I still buy them on occasion. So it's for me, a physical book means I can highlight it and I can remember it, and I don't have to Google search it. I can just go to my bookshelf. But for others and for the new content, I think it's a great model. Great model. So top level problems you mentioned, just what are the top level problems as a network administrator that you try to take them through from a career learning perspective, as well as what the tool actually can do for you? So when you talked about these, can you give us some insight into the kind of some of the chapters or some of the content that you did from a career, what I need to know so I can sleep better at night?
Yeah, sure. So it starts off pretty high level in why you would want to have an sort of an end-to-end monitoring solution instead of having multiple point tools. Like, I mean, we all know that there's a lot of new environments being sprung up. I mean, we're used to vSphere on-prem, but now we've got VMware Cloud AWS, we've got native AWS, Azure, GCP. Applications and networks in particular are spreading all over the place. I'm not even talking about SD-WAN, that also in makes the span of like the networks that a networking admin needs to control and needs to be able to troubleshoot is just way too much these days. The amount of time that someone takes from, hey, my end user is complaining, my customer is complaining about some connectivity issue, to an actual solution is becoming longer and longer because of those distributed environments, and the more complicated we can make the networks, the better it is for the application sometimes. But oh well. So it starts from a high level there, and vRealize is pretty good in there because it has that visibility on the on-prem data center, the public clouds, the native public clouds, the branches, includes them all together. So that's why I was focusing on Network Insight. By the way, I started writing this book before I joined the Network Insight team, so it's not really that it comes from my marketing role, just as a yeah.
Yes, it's surprising how many people actually become experts in a field outside of VMware or in VMware, but not in marketing. And then eventually, because they were evangelizing and they have passion about the topic, they end up in a tech marketing role around that topic, just because you're a leader and thinker already in it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it starts really high level, and then it walks you through realistic scenarios. Like, what do you do when you're facing a specific issue? Like, what do you do when an application starts to act slow? What do you do when your CEO comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to have a look at all the traffic between this application and that application, or all the traffic that was coming in from China?" What do you do when you want to change something in your network, and how do you approach that in a safe way instead of just trying it and see what happens? So all of those like use cases that VNI has, like, how do you actually get there? That's the meat of the book, pretty much. Hence the name Cookbook. Like you get a recipe, or you get an order, basically, like I want you to do this, and whether that be related to visibility or change management or troubleshooting, there's a recipe for you, and then you can follow that recipe in getting it done, basically. That's
How
the
many
idea.
chapters?
Oh, that's a good one. I think around 15, 17 ish.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite? I mean, I know. Do you have one that when you get it done, you go, "I'm going to go back and reread that because that's my favorite amount of learning I have here."
The cool part is that I've had this thing lying on my desk for a couple of weeks now, and I've reached into it for a couple of times, and it's always to the search chapter. And the reason why is that vRealize has got a built-in search engine, sort of like a Google type search, where you can just type in what you want. Like either I want to see traffic, I want to see firewall rules or VMs or whatever. But there's a very complicated and extended search syntax behind it. So it's almost like a database where you can just query and select from the database that is the data lake that's in there. So there's a lot of conditions. There are a lot of operators you can use. Where and is. You can use subqueries. You can do nested. All kinds of very, very powerful stuff that you can do with it. And the search chapter is something that I still reach back into to say, hey, how did I do that again?
Nice. So if and then when we get done with COVID-19 in 2020 and we're back at VMworld and you run into Martjin and you buy his copy of his book from the bookstore, you're going to autograph it. What chapter is that? Because I'm going to open the book to that chapter and have you autograph the search chapter.
That's, yeah, sure. It's either the search chapter or the automation chapter. There's also quite a big automation focus in the end. Also centering around the PowerShell module that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about the PowerShell module? I know I did some scripting this weekend just for fun. I had some test scripts I want to write, and I gotta say, for everybody listening, if you haven't written any scripts in a while, I went back to Microsoft shell programming, which is a .bat file, and man, I had so much fun because they actually have, and I've forgotten all about this because I'm used to writing object-oriented code and all this, but they actually have goto. Right. And you can actually name and jump to, oh my God, it was heaven. I was having so much fun. My code is spaghetti right now, but man, is that fun. So I love it. So PowerShell, and tell me about your module.
Yeah, sure. And by the way, I totally agree with that goto. I still use PHP just for that reason, because it has the goto in it as well. But yeah, the PowerShell is pretty much my second favorite language, I'd say. So Power VRNI, as affectionately known, just like Power VRA, Power NSX, I decided to keep it in line as in the PowerShell naming. So it's a pretty complete PowerShell module. It's available on GitHub, github.com/PowerVRNI. And basically you can just load it and then grab any piece of data that you want from VRNI. So if you're a little bit familiar with VRNI, and you might be a little bit more if you read the book, but it has a lot of traffic information. It has VM information, host, switch, firewall, all of that is in there, and you can grab that information using that PowerShell module. So for example, I've been working with a couple of organizations that had a need to archive all the network connectivity that was happening on their network for 20 years. So they had like a massive syslog server basically, and every single connection needed to go there. Well, 20 years is a little bit too much for VRNI to save, so we needed to figure out some way of doing that. So what we did is we used Power VRNI, put it on a daily scheduled task, and then basically just fetch all the network flows from that day, from those last 24 hours, and then push them into their syslog server. So it would go into the vault, go into the tape robot, and be stored for those 20 years. That's just one example, but you can grab any type of information that you'd like from it.
And Martin, to that extent, I mean, why don't we see, again, this is just an opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, but further adoption or deep dives on VRNI in general, where it seems such a terribly powerful program with a database and now your PowerShell module, that there's so much there and truly insights, as the name implies, that the average administrator can go in and use as a really powerful troubleshooting tool but yet I would think that it's not deployed, or even if it is, when it is deployed, it's not used to its full extent. So what are some of those hurdles to adoption, and how does the book help that?
Yeah, I think the limited usage is mostly because how it got into this world. So at the beginning, ArcInNet was the company that actually made what then later became vRealize Network Insight. VMware acquired it back in 2016, I think. And then it only did microsegmentation planning. So it was a combination of NSX and VRNI or Arkin. And then you would have like a solution to and plan the microsegmentation and then implement it via using NSX. So that really stuck in there. After that was there, VMware took it, and the Arkin team took it, the original Arkin team, and then they iterated on that. So they started adding physical devices. They started adding a lot of cloud resources and more visibility into the actual network traffic instead of just microsegmentation planning. So it grew that way, and for some reason, it always stuck there as like, oh, vRealize and microsegmentation planning. So that's one. And with the cookbook, I really try to focus a lot more on those other use cases, right? So how do you solve a physical networking issue instead of how do you use NSX or something like that? Because honestly, microsegmentation planning is maybe just 10% of the product right now. I mean, there's so much more in there. And as we go on, there's a lot more capabilities coming down the road. Like we've got the SD-WAN integration since last 6 months ago or something. That opens up like the entire brand. So that's just 6 months old, right? That means that it has to have some time in order to trickle down to, well, being known as a data center and an SD-WAN troubleshooting tool instead of just that data center tool. So it just takes time, and I know that's a rotten answer, but especially because I'm in marketing, so I should know that every customer should know this and blah blah blah. But the reality is just that it takes a long time for these types of products to appear, and that's also very much due to the fact that it bridges a lot of silos. So it's not just a featureware admin tool, it's not just a networking admin tool, it's not just a cloud admin networking tool, it's all of the above. Meaning that if you really want to use it to your potential, to the fullest potential, you would need to have the VI admins on board, you would need to have the physical networking people on board, you would then need to have the WAN people on board and the cloud people on board. So meaning that you have to have a lot of voices
A lot of
inside
stakeholders involved.
Yes, exactly. So that's also pretty much I think that's also a big reason why. But we're getting there.
To the customers that you have seen, so you've had some, I'm sure, some field experience with this. How have the ones that you've seen that you've considered to adopt it well? What's an example? You don't necessarily need to name the actual customer, but how have they integrated it, and where are the ones that are doing it well? How do you see that they've taken it to the next level and integrated it to their operations?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I could name a couple of names, but I just don't remember. I have a very weird mind like that. Anyway, the customers that actually take it to the full potential, they pretty much have an open organization. So they're not that traditional, like silos and then managers above it, and you can only talk to another silo via the ticketing system or via the managers or whatever. So they one of the more modern organizations that we have these days. So people like to speed things up. People like to not spend too much time on certain problems and just get things fixed. So those types of organizations that really have opened up that way in the last couple of years, I see those using the product to the fullest because they have the easiest way to get everybody on board and just plug the product into every single networking equipment and vSphere environment and cloud environment that they've got, and then they just start reaping in the benefits from it. One of the things that is really cool to see is, I mentioned the search engine earlier. From that search, you can request any type of information that you like, and then pin that. So pin that to a pin board, as we call it. It's just another another name for a dashboard. But those types of organizations, they still work in specific focus areas. So you've got the VI specialist, you've got the security specialist, etc. And then they start creating their own pin boards, like getting the data out of that data lake, pinning the things that they're interested in, but still looking at the same data that their entire IT department is looking at. So they're looking at the same data instead of different tools, different names. They get the picture. They just have to link to a specific object, a specific router or an application, and people know what you're talking about instead of having to translate that between those different toolings also.
Sounds more like operational dashboards, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much where it comes down to. And the most fun thing that I've seen is dial into a customer and then ask them to show me their VRNI instance, and then see that they've got like dozens of these pin boards, all personalized towards specific application owners or departments. That's like the way to use it. That's perfect.
Nice.
So
Nice. I know that we're going to run up to the top of the hour, so I have a couple other things. One thing that was on chat, which I think is a worthwhile call out, is that due to COVID 2019, you are donating profits. I'm supposed to ask you profits being donated. Want to tell me about that?
Yeah. So I mean, I work for VMware. I've got a pretty good life. So, and honestly, you're not going to get rich from writing a book. So if you're thinking about writing a book just to make some money, just don't. It's not worth it. So anything that I get from it, it's going to go to the Red Cross for everything that they do with COVID. Because they've been on the front lines and they do a lot of things here. I've even seen that up close within my area. And then I've got like a sort of a division between the Red Cross, the NAACP, and the ACLU, just to help out a little bit more. I mean, I just thought that was necessary, be 2020 being 2020.
All right. So if for people that want to do some good, and you want to, you feel like, wow, I should buy that book, but I shouldn't buy that book, or I should read that book, allocate time. Hey, this is a good corporate way to do a nice donation, is to go check out the book. It's networkinsightcookbook.com. Networking, it's Network Insight Cookbook.com, and go check out the book. And if you buy a copy, I assume you can buy a digital copy or a download copy, some way of getting that.
Yes, so on that website there's two options. You can go to Amazon for the physical one, or Leanpub for the digital one, and then you can read it online. You can download a PDF or put it on a Kindle. I've also got a Kindle here somewhere.
Nice. Yeah. Very nice. And then any money you get, we'll donate. I know how you feel. I raise bees and I bottle up my honey. If it's a good year, I sell them for $10 a jar, natural honey, just to friends and people. And I go to a flea market sometimes. And then I just donate it. I donated it to East Palo Alto for musical instruments for the kids that can't afford them. But that's all done now. So next year I'm going to do the donation to Bill and Melinda Gates, buy a toilet for a community charity that they have. So they raise $500 and you buy a toilet. So good work. We make a lot of money in tech, so why not do some cool projects and then give back in our own unique way. So thanks for doing that. That's awful nice of you.
Exactly,
Let's see. Final things. Got 3 more minutes here. Are you going to ever write another book? And when you do, I know the answer to that, but hit me with the answer. What are you ever going to write another one?
Never say never, but honestly, I just want to have version 2 of this one first, and then see where I stand.
That was my follow-up question. If you're going to do a version 2, if you buy version 1, do you get like an upgrade coupon, or get some discount? How does that work?
That's a good thing about LeanPub, which is why I'm preferring those, because if you buy it there, then you're just automatically subscribed for any new version. So whenever I publish something new or push something to GitHub, you will find it yourself in your email box.
Nice. Matt, I'll give you the last word as we close out here.
I'll go back to the format of the question that I asked Gabe Newth on a previous episode, Martin. If you would have to put your consultant hat on just for a minute and look at the Vernie suite as just from an outside observer, where are we lacking within the product? And if you were the PM, where would you want to take it? Where do you see that as it's obviously it's a very powerful tool, but if you were going to call out one thing to make an improvement on the product, what would it be and why?
It's the real timeness, if that's a word of it. So all of the data needs to come in. Some of it is being pushed, some of it it's being pulled, and then there's a couple of like data points where every 5 to 10 minutes new data comes in. So that could be sped up. I mean, we're going into the world of streaming telemetry these days, so that needs to improve a little bit in the future. And I know from a little birdie that it might do that also in the future.
Sounds like a great improvement. Thank you again for your contributions. I love to see that the proceeds are being generated out to some wonderful causes, some very relevant causes here in 2020. Again, if you want to give the URL out one more time and your Twitter handle for our listeners.
Sure, thanks, Matt. So go to networkinsidecookbook.com. You'll have the option right there. There's everything, all the links. My Twitter is Martjin Smit, Martjin. But if you go to networkinsidecookbook.com, my Twitter is also in a link on that page, because I know that my name is a little bit hard to get by.
Right. And with that, we're at the top of the hour. So Martjin, thanks a lot for being here. Thanks for all the work you do. We'll be back again next week. The V Barbecue report is, from what I heard, Tony Foster did barbecued pineapple. I saw pictures of his Twitter account. He took a pineapple, sliced it up, put it on the grill, charred it. If you like charred pineapple, that's the way to go. Maybe I'll get some barbecue peaches this week and do them up. And Martjin, I guess I should say thanks for naming it the Cookbook. Go check us out on youtube.com/vbarbecue, VBARBECUE. You can see Martin. He'll hold up the book for us one more time. And you go check out that book, and we'll have a good time. Give us a like and a subscribe. There it is, the vRealize Network Insight Cookbook. Till then, have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you again next week. We have Mike Hume coming on to talk about cloud stuff and what's happening with the cloud. Talk to you guys later, and have a great week.